We've all been there, saying yes when we really want to say no. We want to help, we don't want to disappoint, or maybe we just don't want to deal with the guilt. But here's a shocking fact: 62% of people feel burned out because they don't set enough boundaries in their lives. And that's not all. Studies show that people who set boundaries experience 33% less stress and are more likely to have healthier relationships. So why do so many of us feel guilty when it's time to set a limit? The truth is, setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's actually one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and for those around you. In this video, we'll dive into the real reasons why we feel guilty, and most importantly, how to stop feeling that way. You'll learn simple, yet powerful strategies to set boundaries without guilt, starting today. Stay tuned as we explore how saying no can actually strengthen your relationships and bring you more peace. It's time to stop sacrificing your happiness. Chapter 1: The Power of No, Why Saying It Is Self-Love. Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out, it's about protecting your peace. In fact, setting boundaries is an act of self-love, not selfishness. It's like putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others. Psychologist Dr. Alexandra Solomon says, boundaries are how we show up for ourselves. By saying no, you're actually saying yes to your needs and well-being. Studies show that people who set boundaries experience less stress and anxiety. They're also better at maintaining healthy relationships because they communicate their limits clearly. But how do we stop feeling guilty about saying no? First, realize that guilt is a learned emotion, not a natural one. Guilt often comes from the fear of disappointing others. However, when you put your own needs first, you're teaching others to respect your limits. Saying no creates a balance between giving and receiving in relationships. A Harvard Medical School study found that clear communication of boundaries actually improves relationships by making both parties feel heard and valued. One strategy for saying no without guilt is to practice assertiveness. This doesn't mean being aggressive or rude, but rather being clear and confident in expressing your limits. For example, instead of saying, "I'm sorry, I can't help you," try, "I'm unable to do that right now, but I appreciate you asking." It's all about respecting both yourself and the other person. And remember, you don't need to explain yourself endlessly. A simple, polite no is often enough. Chapter 2: Breaking Free from Guilt. The art of assertive compassion. Breaking free from guilt requires understanding that you can be compassionate and still have boundaries. Compassion is about empathy, while assertiveness is about respecting yourself. Dr. Brené Brown, in her book Rising Strong, says, "Clear is kind. Unclear is unkind." When we don't set boundaries, we end up resenting others, and even ourselves, leading to emotional burnout. Guilt often stems from the fear that setting boundaries will hurt someone's feelings, but it's important to remember that healthy relationships thrive on honesty. Here's a simple way to shift your mindset: instead of seeing boundaries as rejection, view them as an opportunity for clarity and mutual respect. According to a study from the American Psychological Association, people who set healthy boundaries are less likely to experience burnout or emotional exhaustion. So, saying no isn't just good for you, it's good for everyone. One powerful strategy is using I statements. This helps you express your feelings without sounding accusatory. For example, instead of saying, "You never respect my time," try, "I feel overwhelmed when my time isn't respected." This subtle change keeps the conversation focused on your feelings and needs, which fosters understanding. And when you communicate clearly, you're not only protecting your peace, you're also teaching others how to treat you with respect. Another technique is visualizing the boundary you want to set. Imagine a calm, clear situation where you've said no without guilt. This mental rehearsal helps prepare you for real-life scenarios and builds your confidence. Research from the University of Toronto suggests that visualization can reduce anxiety and improve performance in challenging situations. Chapter 3: Redefining Love. Boundaries as building blocks of trust. You might think that boundaries create distance, but in reality, they build trust. Healthy boundaries are the foundation of any strong relationship. Dr. John Gottman, a leading relationship expert, found that couples who maintain healthy boundaries are happier and more satisfied in their relationships. He writes in the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work, trust is built in the small moments of everyday life. When partners respect each other's boundaries, trust flourishes. When we honor our own boundaries, we also show others how to honor theirs. This creates a reciprocal respect in relationships that can lead to deeper emotional connection. According to a study by the University of California, couples with clear boundaries report higher levels of satisfaction and communication. This means that by setting boundaries, you're not pushing your partner away, you're actually inviting them to engage with you in a more meaningful way. A practical way to incorporate boundaries into love is by setting time for yourself. Relationships thrive when both individuals maintain their personal interests and pursuits. For instance, if you need time alone to recharge, it's essential to communicate that with your partner. One statistic shows that couples who prioritize personal time report feeling more connected, despite spending less time together. This balance is key to long-term happiness. Another strategy is using the boundary sandwich. This technique involves wrapping your boundary request between two positive statements. For example, I love spending time with you, but I also need some quiet time to recharge. I value our relationship, and I know we'll both benefit from this space. This approach softens the boundary and helps prevent any feelings of rejection. By redefining love as a partnership that includes personal space and respect for boundaries, you create a relationship that's built to last. Instead of feeling guilty about taking care of yourself, you'll find that your love for yourself enhances your capacity to love others. And that's the ultimate form of happiness. If you're finding this helpful so far, don't forget to hit subscribe. You won't want to miss the next part of this journey toward setting boundaries without guilt. Chapter 4, The Boundary Blueprint: How to Design Yours Without Fear. Creating your own boundary blueprint starts with understanding your values. Knowing what's most important to you, whether it's your time, your energy, or your emotional space, helps you define your boundaries. Psychologist Dr. Sherry Campbell writes in Loving Yourself, The Mastery of Being Your Own Person, boundaries are the clear distinction between where you end and others begin. When you're clear about your needs, you can design boundaries that fit your life and protect your happiness. The first step in designing your boundaries is to assess your current relationships. Are there areas where you constantly feel drained or overwhelmed? Maybe a friend always calls late at night, or a colleague asks for help outside of office hours. Take note of these moments and pinpoint where boundaries could make a positive difference. According to research from the Mayo Clinic, people who set healthy boundaries in their work and personal lives report higher levels of job satisfaction and overall well-being. Next, you need to communicate your boundaries with clarity. A common mistake is to avoid setting boundaries for fear of confrontation. But avoidance only leads to resentment. Instead, be direct, calm, and confident. One technique is to use the broken record method. Repeat your boundary as needed without getting defensive. For example, if a coworker keeps asking you to stay late, you could say, I need to leave by 5 p.m. today, and repeat this if they persist. This simple yet powerful approach keeps your message clear and non-negotiable. Another strategy is to practice saying no in low-stakes situations. This helps you build confidence before facing bigger challenges. For example, practice turning down an invitation to a social event when you're simply too tired. The more you practice, the easier it will become to stand by your boundaries without guilt. Finally, remember that your boundaries may evolve over time. Life changes, and so do your needs. What worked for you last year may not work now, so be open to revisiting and adjusting your boundaries as needed. Flexibility doesn't mean weakness, it means you're in control of your happiness. Chapter 5, The Guilt Trap: How to Recognize and Escape It in Relationships. Guilt is a sneaky emotion that often arises when setting boundaries, especially in close relationships. It's a natural reaction, but it doesn't have to control you. In her book The Gifts of Imperfection, Brené Brown describes guilt as I did something bad, whereas shame is I am bad. Understanding the difference is key to breaking free from guilt. When you feel guilty about setting a boundary, remind yourself that it's not your responsibility to make everyone happy. Research shows that guilt often stems from fear of being misunderstood or fear of hurting someone's feelings. But in reality, most people respect clear boundaries, even if it takes time for them to adjust. A study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that couples with clear boundaries report higher relationship satisfaction and less conflict. When we respect our own needs, it teaches others to do the same. One strategy to escape the guilt trap is to reframe the situation. Instead of seeing boundary setting as rejecting someone, view it as a way of prioritizing your well-being. For example, you can tell yourself, by taking care of myself, I'm actually able to show up better for this relationship. This mindset shift helps reduce the guilt and makes setting boundaries feel like an act of self-care. Another helpful tool is to remind yourself of the long-term benefits of boundaries. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable in the moment, but in the long run, setting limits will lead to healthier and more sustainable relationships. A study from the University of California found that people who regularly set boundaries report feeling more balanced and fulfilled in their personal lives. If guilt still creeps in, take a moment to reflect on why you feel it. Are you afraid of being abandoned? Are you worried about disappointing someone? Understanding the root of your guilt will help you address it directly. Often, guilt is a signal that we need to reassert our self-worth and value in relationships. If you're loving these insights, make sure you hit subscribe and stay tuned for the final chapter on how to turn guilt into gratitude. You won't want to miss it. Chapter 6, From Guilt to Gratitude, How Healthy Boundaries Create Lasting Love. The final step in the journey of setting boundaries without guilt is transforming that guilt into gratitude. When you set boundaries, you're not just protecting yourself, you're also enhancing the quality of your relationships. Studies show that healthy boundaries are linked to stronger, more enduring relationships. In Boundaries in Marriage, Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend explain that clear boundaries help couples stay emotionally healthy, which in turn builds lasting love. One powerful way to shift from guilt to gratitude is to focus on the positive outcomes of your boundary setting. For example, maybe setting a boundary about personal time has led to more fulfilling quality time with your partner. Or perhaps by saying no to extra work, you now have time to focus on a hobby that brings you joy. These benefits are the rewards of maintaining healthy boundaries, and they are worth celebrating. Gratitude also comes from recognizing that boundaries can lead to deeper connections. While it might seem counterintuitive, setting limits actually fosters trust and respect. The more you respect your own limits, the more your partner or loved ones will respect them too. This mutual respect is the foundation of any lasting relationship. Dr. Gary Chapman, in his book The 5 Love Languages, emphasizes that love thrives on respect and understanding, both of which are cultivated through healthy boundaries. Another strategy for creating gratitude is to express appreciation when someone respects your boundaries. Let them know that their understanding makes you feel valued. For example, I really appreciate you respecting my need for quiet time, thank you. This simple acknowledgement reinforces the positive impact of boundary setting. Lastly, remember that healthy boundaries allow for growth, not just in your relationships, but in your own personal development. Setting limits helps you prioritize your mental and emotional health, which in turn makes you a better partner, friend, and individual. As you move from guilt to gratitude, you'll find that the boundaries you set today will help you create a future filled with lasting love and happiness. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more tips on building better relationships. You deserve to live with healthy boundaries and a heart full of peace.